Gala has had a pretty meteoric rise this last week, or 9 days of 2023, whichever you prefer, from 1.8 cents all the way up to 4.3 cents, which is about a 130% increase as of the time of this recording. But I have some concerns, not just about how rapidly this price has risen in the last few days, but also about the actual news that they've put out that is causing this price appreciation. The news essentially is that they've bought a mobile game studio that has about 20 million daily active users across their various games. They're also spending $1 million on an ad campaign for Spider Tanks, one of their only functional Web3 games. And they have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Mark Wahlberg collaborating on a movie together, which that's pretty cool. I can't knock that at all. But as far as this news goes, I have some doubts on how well this may actually translate over into profits for token holders. And I want to just warn you away from FOMOing into this rally that we're seeing right now and hopefully provide a bit of a contrarian argument as well as a voice of reason inside of all of this FOMO that's going around right now. So I mentioned that the price had risen about 130%. So let's start there because I think that that will be the most logical way of looking at this for most people that are interested in trying to get in on this rally. By and large, when a coin or stock or any kind of asset appreciates a large amount in a short period of time, you generally don't want to go and purchase it after most of that appreciation has already occurred because it will eventually revert to the mean. Once this news is digested and people have had time to see the results of this news, then the price may correct back down to kind of reflect a more fair value than it is currently. We see this a lot in the stock market with things like the whole Bed Bath & Beyond thing and several other smaller stocks. But just know that there's a pretty good chance of statistically this coming back down. And I think that there are some multiple reasons why this could even theoretically come back down in the next few weeks. I think one of the biggest that I'm concerned about is that the Gala team needs to fund this acquisition for this mobile game studio that they did. We have no idea how much they spent on this game studio. Maybe they were struggling financially and they were able to capitalize on that. But regardless, they need to hype the price of their coin in order to pay their many employees. And now that they've got a staggering 53 games under their portfolio, while they're not managing all of these games themselves in-house, they still need to pay out those employees and pay out their employees in order to continue operations. And so they will need to sell off some of Gala Coin in order to recoup this investment. And I think that's probably why they're dropping all of this news at once in the middle of like a mini bull run that we're seeing in the broad crypto space, because I still think we're in the middle of a bear market and those factors that have brought us into the bear market are not really gone yet. So I wouldn't go thinking that this is the end of the bear market for Gala or even crypto in general. I definitely think we still have some more pain to go. So just be cautious of that when you're trying to follow these runs. But Gala Games or even some other big investors might just dump after this price appreciation in order to get some of their value back on the coin. I think it's also safe to say, and I obviously have no data to prove this is just my opinion, but I think that it's pretty logical that Gala would be selling in the end of 2022 in order to kind of write off some of these taxes that they've probably accrued from their token being so high earlier in the year. They've probably written off a large amount of taxes due to losses with the coin being so low. I don't know if they suppressed it themselves or, if it just naturally went down almost 98% or whatever it was by the end of that little run a week ago. But regardless, they've probably already sold some, so maybe it won't be so bad, but I definitely anticipate that they're trying to pump this up as high as they can by releasing as much news all at once in order to either take some profits, cut off the top so they have some more runway for the next year or two, or just pay out some extra bonuses to their hardworking employees. But realistically, probably the former. So if you haven't already capitalized on the Gala run-up thus far, I definitely wouldn't try and chase it for that reason specifically, but also because I just think that the news itself might be a little overhyped, and I want to dive into why I think that. Now, like I said earlier, I think them bringing on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Mark Wahlberg is just unequivocally good. I mean, those guys are really seasoned veterans in the film space. I watch a lot of their movies personally, and most people I know of them. They're very well renowned, so I think that is just generally good. Now, I have some questions on how Gala Film is actually going to make money and how that is going to operate. They seem to have some very pie in the sky ambitions for it, which is great, but I'm just skeptical of how their revenue streams are going to look like for that, other than crowdfunding from us in order to get these films off the ground, right? So I'm a little concerned about that. I'm sure that they've thought a bit more about this than I have, though, so I'm hopeful that they'll be able to figure it out. But as far as the game studio that they've acquired goes, and them managing these new mobile games that they've brought on, I have my doubts. And mostly that's because Gala Games has yet to produce anything that is of substantial value out of their games portfolio that they had already. And now they're trying to tackle an additional influx of these mobile games and convert them over to their existing Geary chain. When they have so much work to do on their current existing products, because they're not making money, they thought it would be great to bring on more products that their team then has to integrate and manage. I just don't see that as like a huge positive like everyone else is kind of making it out to be. I think there are some significant downsides with this as well. We've touched on the management aspect of why that could be a downside, but I also just think that the revenue that they're talking about making from pulling these mobile games and putting them onto their blockchain might also be overstated. Because yes, they're going to plan on burning Gala tokens that are used for the gas fees in these mobile games that they're trying to convert into blockchain mobile games to just burn in the supply and make Gala deflationary in theory. I think that we're going to see a lot less action on these mobile games than people are anticipating, even with 20 million daily active users. Well, and actually, I don't even know if it's 20 million daily active users or just 20 million total users, which is very different. The target audience that are playing these mobile games currently probably aren't interested in blockchain gaming. And if you just convert an existing game that they've been enjoying for who knows how long, potentially years. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of information on this game studio yet, but still, if you convert this game that they've been enjoying into a blockchain game and then just give them all these assets that they've already had in their inventories for free to control on your blockchain, what's stopping them from dumping them on the market and then just not doing anything with them ever again? I mean, if they see that they can make money back on their purchases in this mobile game, I would definitely dump some of those assets if I were them. Like the ones that I'm not using are gone. And then what incentive do I have to go and buy those back on the open market? Even if I'm still enjoying and playing the game, there may not be a lot of reason for me to go and spend $100 on a new sword, for example, if I already have like a good enough spot in the game that I've earned just by playing it prior. I think that most of these gamers aren't even going to interact with the blockchain aspect of it. They'll probably just continue playing as they had before because this game was not marketed to them as a blockchain game and they have no real incentive to use it as such other than to make free money off of them selling their assets, which will probably just tank the price of those assets in game, which then has a negative feedback loop of not really attracting new investors into the game. I just don't see it working out quite as well as they're anticipating, or at least as well as they're making it out to be. Because in order to see a real amount of Gala burned from these gas fees, A, the gas fees have to be pretty substantial, which is just a negative in general for Geary. And B, they actually have to see a lot of volume. And if nobody is really interacting with this, because let's think about the logistics of how this would actually work. So they are taking an existing game, let's say it's Farmville, just for the sake of ease of interaction, right? And so they've got Farmville on Geary Chain now, and all of the items that you could have purchased, like say a milk pail or a cow or whatever, are now tokens on Geary's chain. Once you have everything tokenized, how does the user actually go about acquiring these tokens? Well, they'd have to have a wallet. And so Gala could create wallets for everyone on the Geary chain and then, send out some emails or maybe some in-game notifications to let people know that they have a wallet. But I'm assuming that the click-through rates on those and the actual capture of users that are already using these mobile games is going to be fairly low. I would say probably a 10% conversion that you're actually going to get that are going to sign up for Gala's services and use this wallet. And then there will probably be people who are just confused right out the gate, don't understand what to do with these new assets that they've been given, and will just continue playing the game how they normally have been. and not really interacting with the Geary chain. So while acquiring a studio with 20 million users is impressive, I'm not sure that the conversions are actually there to bring all of these people onto the blockchain. Definitely not 20 million people like some are making it out to be. There's no way that that will happen. And we may see some real negative feedback from people who are upset about Gala acquiring the studio and changing the games as they exist into blockchain games for profit. I think that the Web3 blockchain gaming technology space has a real negative stigma attached to it via crypto, because crypto in general is looking like a big scam to a lot of folks. They are not as willing in the gaming space to pick up as maybe you and I are, that have already experienced blockchain gaming before. And so there might be some real pushback from the user base that I don't know that anyone's accounting for. And then I touched on this briefly earlier, but I also just don't think that Gala has any real winners under their belt yet, and they're trying to tackle this entirely new ecosystem of mobile games and add these to their blockchain. I just when do they stop and just take stock of what they have currently? I get that they need to build hype in order to secure money, but it just feels really slimy when they do this. They've obviously held a lot of news back and released it all at once in order to build hype so they can take profits and sell some coins for themselves. But I just don't like when they're disingenuous with their investors this way, because to me, Gala has always been about hype. And this rant is coming from the place of someone who has spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on Gala products. I've traded, $1 million in volume last year on NFTs, and I still own a lot of these Gala products. So don't think I'm just fudding your bags or a hater or anything like that. This comes out of a place of constructive criticism and love. I want Gala to succeed. I think that the idea of Gala is amazing. I think the execution that they do is a little flawed, and they are misleading their customers often. With Townstar specifically, when that was their only game, and people had not really realized the full potential of Gala, they would put out items that had simple one-line descriptions on what they did and then sell them for thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and people would buy them. And then you would get nowhere near the effects that you were expecting because they kept it vague on purpose to allow them to change everything after the fact without offending anyone. While that works great for the business, it's very misleading to the people who have spent thousands of dollars on these products. And I just really don't like the way that they handled that. They've pissed off a lot of people that actually care about this project and bought into it over the last couple of years, myself included. I mean, I made a video on how I just think that there's some systems in Spider Tanks that need to go in order for me to put any more money into it, because they're so unequivocally bad. Gala has some real work to do in order to fix the things that they already have, make right by the players who have supported them throughout the years, and really deliver on these promises. Because while Spider Tanks is a fun game, it is nowhere near the competitive esport that they're making it out to be. And $1 million in ad spending isn't going to change that. I get that we don't know their financials, and they're probably just being really short term right now in order to survive, because I think they probably spent too much money last year on things like Galaverse and maybe acquiring some of these games that aren't necessarily good or maybe will never be good. Like Grit comes to mind, for example. I just think that the state that game is in is really sad right now, unfortunately. Hopefully they can turn it around, but who knows? And so I would just caution you to really take a second look at Gala and think long and hard about jumping in on this rally, because I think that there's a very high likelihood that you could get hurt from this, and I would hate to see that. So I'm sorry that this video has been primarily negative, but I do think that there's a really bright future ahead for Gala if they can figure out some of these problems that they're having currently and right the ship, so to speak. I do really believe in them still, even after all of these things that I've said. Just caution yourself about jumping into a FOMO rally is all I'm really trying to get at. I think that there are some other problems that they're gonna have to solve first before they can really price appreciate. I will have a video coming out on Superior, which is, in my opinion, the superior Gala game right now. It is actually a very good game and fun to play, which is awesome. I can't wait for it to reveal the economics of it. Hopefully they're not as flawed as Spider Tanks. But if you'd like to see the reasons why I think that Spider Tanks really could use some improvement, then check out this video on screen now. I think that there's a lot of potential for Spider Tanks, but in its current state, it's just really not a competitive esport, and I'll talk about that over there. So see you then. Thanks. Catch you in the next one.